My name is Patty Bernard. I'm a member of the Nevada Women's History Project. Today is Saturday, December 10th, 2022, and we are here interviewing Marjean Bufkin, also called Jeannie. And this interview is funded by the generosity of the Estelle J. Kelsey Foundation. Welcome, Jean. Jeannie, I'd like to start off with you talking a little bit about your formative years. I know that you came from the South. A little bit about your parents and your early schooling.
My parents, my mom's name was Maddie Mae, and she married my daddy, Osro Huddleston. Together they had 9 children, 7 girls and 2 boys. And my dad was a farmer, and my mom never worked because she was having babies all the time. So we went to school. Well, we really didn't get a good education because being there picking cotton and corn and all of this kind of stuff, we couldn't go to school until after all the crop was, in. So we started the school maybe in December, and we went until March, and that was it. And we lived in the country, so we had to take a school bus to the city, which was about, it had a grocery store and fashion stores. It really was, very, very small. You go right through it and you would know you went through the town. And then we had to get out of school to start farming again. But I did graduate from 12th grade. That's all the schooling I got. And my older sister, she got 12th grade and she went to college for a year. And she couldn't go anymore because they couldn't afford it. So then my dad decided to leave and go to Detroit to get a job. He worked for General Motors, but he was laid off more than he was working. So he was traveling from Michigan back to Mississippi, Mississippi back to Michigan. So finally, his sister told him about Hurlong. They was hiring there. So he came to Hurlong and got a job. So he came back and he was telling me about it. And I said, we called him Papa. I said, Papa, can I please go? Can I please go? Because I was babysitting, once a week, which was on a Monday. And this lady was taking me to Jackson, Mississippi. That was about 65 miles from where we live, to take care of her daughter that just had a baby. I was washing diapers and, cleaning house like that. So he let me come with him.
I know that your family would be considered poor even in those days. And what went along with poverty in the South in your daily life? What was your daily life like?
It was very stressful because now we lived in a 3-bedroom house and we had beds in each one, but there was 3 people sleeping at the head of the bed and 3 people at the foot of the bed. My brother had his own room because he was a boy, but we didn't have running water. We did not have a refrigerator. We had a wood stove, and we had to heat our water to take a bath, and we took a bath in the big tubs. What you wash in back there. It was terrible. And before we had our well built, we had to go down to a spring and bring water up. It was terrible back there.
And I know that you were working outside and then wound up with ailment.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had a big thing here on my neck. It stuck way
Bulge.
out here. Yeah. And then it traveled to this eye. You can probably see the scar here. So then I could not get in the sun. The doctor told me I had to stay in the house. So then I was the one that stayed there and took care of the babies and cooked the meals. Of course, my mom, whatever we was going to cook, she would put the ingredients in it, and all I had to do was mix it up and cook it. So when they came from the field for 12 o'clock, to eat, I had the food ready for them.
And then you went out after dark or after the light ended,
Mm-hmm.
and then you actually worked in the fields also?
Yes, I did.
And did you do this at the same time you were going to school?
Yeah, well, yes, I was supposed to be going to school, but I wasn't going to school. That's what I said. We really didn't get schooling. We went, but not like the other children.
Well, how many kids were in that school?
Oh, I would say I went to Decatur High School, so I would say there was maybe 100 kids.
Mostly from rural farms or from the town?
Yeah, from the town and the rural. Yeah. We had to take a school bus to get there because we was way out in the country.
And you talked about a fire that burned your house?
Yes, the fire burned our house down. So we had to find a place to stay. My dad found a place for us. And it was right before Christmas. And that's these white friends. Well, they were white. I don't know if they was friends of my dad's or not. That's the first doll I got. When Christmas came, all we got was a bag of candy and an apple and orange. That was our Christmas treats. But this year, I finally got a doll. The first doll I ever had and the last doll I ever had.
So let me ask you, because my sister got a black doll when she was about 10 or 12. Was your doll black or was it white?
It was a white doll.
It was a white doll.
White. Yeah. I don't know if it was some that somebody didn't want, had given her, and she gave it to me, but I got a doll.
Wow.
And my older sister got one of these little blue, and I think they were gold tea sets. Remember those?
I do.
Yeah, that's what my older sister got.
What kind of traditions did you have in your home besides Christmas? What kinds of things did you celebrate?
That was it.
That was it.
That was it. We were poor.
Easter?
No.
It just was a regular day.
Right. Just a regular day. My mom did have chickens, and but they laid eggs, and that's how she bought flour for us. And of course, we raised our cattle and our pigs so that we had meat. But as far as buying sugar and stuff like that, that's how she did it. She sold eggs.
So your animals were really for your own consumption.
Right.
I thought it was kind of unusual that you graduated high school, because I would think that many of the girls in your school, I'm thinking of mine years later, chose to marry right after high school. Why was it important for you to get a high school diploma?
Well, I had to go to school or else I was out there working all the time. And we couldn't go to basketball games. My dad and mom was very religious. We could not, there was no televisions. We did have a radio, but we could not listen to any blues, stuff like that on, the radio. And like I've told quite a few times, the worst whooping, that's what they called them back in those days, whooping I ever got was playing jacks.
Really?
I was playing jacks and my dad saw me and he said I was gambling.
So church was, you went to church?
We went to church every Sunday, Sunday school, and we had to walk. My dad never had a car. The way his nephew went into the military and left his truck with my dad, and my dad had his truck until he got out of the military. And then after he was out of the military, my father finally went out and bought a truck. So on Sunday mornings, when we would go to church, we would have to ride in the back. He and my mom was in the front. And by the time we got to church, we was dusty because, there was no pavement or anything back there. It was nothing but dust. Our hair would be dusty. Yeah.
So did you then take that day as a day of rest? You didn't work on that day?
No, we didn't work on that day. No, that day we didn't work. But sometime they would let us go and visit a friend. Sometime. But they was very strict. Like when I was 12th grade and I went to my senior prom, this guy came to pick me up. Guess who took me to the prom? My dad did. The guy brought the corsage for me, and I rode in the truck with my dad, and he drove behind us. And 12 o'clock midnight, the principal came in and said, your dad said he's ready to go.
Marjean, after high school, I know that you got your job taking care of children.
Mm-hmm.
What was the pay?
The pay was $12 a week. And I had to pay the lady that I was living with $5 of that for sleeping in her bed at night.
And so you were actually renting a room. And then how often did you go home?
On the weekend, my mom would come and pick me up. My mom and my brother. Go home on Saturday.
And your dad left your area to go north. And what was his motivation?
Well, because he couldn't get a job in Mississippi. And they had a mortgage at the time. And he just couldn't take care of us. So he left.
Were you in a community that had, in the town, there were white people?
Uh-huh.
Was your area, your school was segregated? Did you experience discrimination?
Of course
or were you normally in where you were in a black area?
We were in a black area, and the little town that we had. Now, if there was a white lady walking down the street and a black man walking down the street, that black man had to get off of that street and let her have it all by herself. And there was lots of places we couldn't go. Now, like where we, where we lived, there was a white guy lived up the street, and he would come down and he would scream and holler. He had a whip and he would be popping it, you niggers. And it was really something. So my mom taught us when we saw him coming down the road, it wasn't a street, it was a road, to go in the back and all this stuff. Then his wife would bake cakes and stuff and bring them down and give them to my mom. And my mom would thank her. And she'd tell us to take it in the kitchen and don't you dare touch it until I come in. So we would do that. She'd go in and there would be all kind of bugs in it.
Was the white school close to the school that you were at?
No.
So they were in different areas.
Different areas, yeah.
You said that your dad went to Detroit to find better lifestyle. Then how did he and when did he move to Herlong, California?
My dad, his sisters, daughters, husband was in the military. And she told her mom about them hiring non-military people there. So my aunt Sudie told my dad, which was her brother, and he came out in 54, I think it was. Yeah, 54. And they hired him right away. But he had a hernia. So they did the surgery on him. He came back to Mississippi and stayed until he could come back to work. So he came back to Huron and went to work. Then when he came back, he was telling us about it. And I begged and I pleaded with him to bring me back so I could get a job. Because all I was doing was making $12, a week there. So he brought me back, and I spent a week in Huron. Then he brought me to Reno, and I lived with some of his friends. They was older people, which was very nice to me. So I worked for the Snows for a while. They had the velvet ice cream. I don't know if you heard of that before.
Yes,
Yeah.
in Reno.
In Reno. So I worked for them, and then I got a job at Washoe Med. That's what it was at the time. And I've been there ever since.
What kind of a hardship was it that your father, for so many years, was away from your family?
It was very hard, very hard. My mom, by her not working, she would come and stay with him, say, for 2 weeks. Bring the two little ones, and then she would come back, and my grandma would, take care of the rest of us that was there. But it was hard.
Was your grandfather alive at that time?
Yeah, my grandfather.
So you had kind of a male somewhere
Yeah.
in the proximity.
Right. Yeah, my grandfather and my grandma. On my mom's side. On my dad's side, my grandfather was gone.
So you worked for the first white family when you first came to Reno.
Reno. Mm-hmm. The Snows. Their last name was
Do you
Snow.
remember what you were paid?
I was paid, they didn't pay me by the hour. They paid me by the month. I think I was making $150 a month.
So that was kind of substantial.
Yeah.
Increase.
Right.
And what kind of chores did you do?
Well, all I did was take care of the kids.
You were
just babysit the kids, and they would want to go to the movies. I had to go to the movies with them, to make sure they were okay.
So you did not do the housework?
No. No, they had cooks and all of that.
And you worked for the Wingfields also? Was that before or after?
Yeah, well, that was before.
And what did you do for the Wingfields?
The same thing, take care of the kids.
So after you left the South, you really didn't do housework.
No,
you were
no.
of a babysitter.
Yes.
What were your impressions when you came to Huron?
Well, I wasn't there long, but I thought I was coming to a town. So that night we got home, and I was a big talker then, and I was talking to my dad, and he told me, "Would you please be quiet? It's snowing. I got to pay attention to the roads." So I wanted to go see the town. And he says, "Well, we'll get up in the morning and I'll take you and show you the town." Because where I was from was nothing but wood. And we got up and we ate breakfast. He took me in Huron to a post office. And he said, "You're in the heart of town." And I thought, this is like Mississippi. Yeah, I was so disappointed. And then when I got to Reno, it was so different.
So you mentioned snow. Had you seen snow before?
Well, we have snow in Mississippi, but nothing like we have here.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. So,
but I'd never seen mountains.
Oh.
Never seen mountains. We don't have that in Mississippi.
How did you travel to Huron?
By car.
By car,
yeah.
Not train.
No, by car. My dad drove.
What was it like as you drove from Mississippi to Nevada? How did you experience the different changes of?
Well, it was kind of hard because I wanted to see everything and I had to go to sleep. And what he would do, he would go to a rest stop and we would sit there for hours and sleep a little bit, and then we'd start out again.
So you never did go to a hotel
No,
or
no, no, no,
anything. You
no.
just as a rest stop.
No, we couldn't afford it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, what kinds? I'm trying to think. In those days, they didn't have rest stops as we had. No rest stops. So what kind of rest stops did you stop at?
Like the ones where the motorhomes go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. So you come to Reno, and what was your first impression of Reno?
Well, I really liked Reno. I didn't know anybody in Reno, and these people that I was staying with, I had a oh
Yet,
little room. It was very small. It was kind of depressing because I didn't know anybody in Reno. Never been out of the South. And the only place when I was in the South, I went to Jackson, Mississippi, and Meridian, and that was it. Like when I got married, we went back there, and I couldn't believe all of these cities that we went through, that I was born and raised there, and I didn't even know about them. But we just, with all the kids, my dad and mom didn't go places.
so you come to Reno, and there's clubs, which you didn't have in the South.
And of course, I couldn't go in them anyway.
But there was a lot of lights,
Lot of lights, a lot of people. Yeah. And another thing, in Reno, when I first came, black people could not go in a restaurant. There was one place that black people could go, and that was the New China Club. You remember that?
I do remember that.
That's where the black people went. And back to Renown, well, it was Washoe at the time.
Wait a minute. Let me go back to before that. So I want to know where in Reno that you could go. Where did you shop? So I'm going to ask a question and say, what was your daily life like? Where did you shop? Where were you allowed to go? Because what I'd like to do is kind of paint a picture of you coming to Reno in 1955 compared to Reno 50 years later, but kind of as a change. So I'm going to ask you, what was your life like in Reno? Where did you shop? Where did you live? Did you go to clubs? Where was your church? Kind of things like that. Okay. So I want to take you to coming to Reno, and you said that there were lots of lights, and it was certainly larger, but in your daily life, where did you live? Where did you shop? Your church? Where was your life in Reno?
Well, I didn't shop. That's it. I did not shop, but I went to church at Second Baptist, and I lived on North Wells in a big 2-story house, but I only had a room there.
Shopping for groceries?
No, I didn't shop for groceries. I ate at the hospital. If I was at working for the Wingfields and all, I ate there.
Okay. What did you do for entertainment?
I didn't.
You just simply worked. Okay, now I'd like to just kind of go on to, you got a job at Washoe Medical. This is
56.
1956. You had a high school education.
Mm-hmm.
What was your entry position, and how much did you make an hour?
I made a whole 99 cents an hour. Yes, that was it.
And what did your job entail?
My job title was a nurse's aide. And that was we go in and give the patients bath, make their beds. And, if they couldn't feed themselves, we fed them, stuff like that. And then after 2 years, they got rid of all of their nurses' aides. So that's when I became a scrub tech.
You must have experienced some discomfort or discrimination in the fact that um, there were so few Black women in job positions. Uh, did you, for patients and doctors, experience discrimination in those early years?
Yes, we did. Now, by me being a Black CNA there, well, there was nurses' aides back in those days. There was many rooms that I couldn't go in. I would go in the room, and they didn't want me in there. And they would call their doctors and tell the doctors that I came in and I was rude to them and all that kind of stuff. So the doctors would call my supervisor. Then my supervisor would come up and talk to me. And I never will forget the last time they did it, the supervisor came and got me and took me down to the room. The lady called out and wanted something for pain. And I said, oh, we'll take care of it. I'll tell your nurse. So when she told the doctor that I said we didn't have time for patients like her. I never said it. So my supervisor took me down there and asked her if I was the one that said that to her. And she said yes. And she was in a 2-bedroom ward. So the lady next door was lying there, shaking her head this way. She says, okay, thank you. So she told me, don't go back in that room. I said, okay. And the lady came up and she told her, she said, that lady is lying. And she told her exactly what I said, what I told. But I had that quite a few times. They would call and said that I was rude to them. They didn't want me in the room. And at that time, we had to take inventory of everything they brought in. Okay, they brought in slippers, pink slippers. We had to write down pink slippers, whatever kind of necklace and, stuff like that. And one day I was in there doing that, and this lady came and snatched the paper away from me because she didn't want me doing it. Yeah, it was very bad.
What about the staff? How did they treat you?
Well, some of them, the nurses were nice, some of them, but some of them were not, and still the same today.
Were there very many Black women that were working at Washoe Medical?
At the time on the floor I was working on, there was 3 of us. That was it. And I was the youngest one, and I had less experience than any of the rest of them. They were there when I got there.
So let's skip forward some years. How have you seen the relationship between Black or Hispanic women change from those early days in the hospital? How have you seen the relationships change?
Well, it's changed quite a bit, but there's still room for more.
In what areas?
Well, we at least at one time we couldn't do this. We couldn't say sit down and talk. I've never been a smoker. I've never been a drinker. Well, if you went in there, you could smoke. Well, now they won't let you smoke or any of that stuff. But I've never smoked. I've never drank.
Work conditions have changed?
Well, no, work condition is about the same.
What are your duties now?
I'm a scrub tech, so what I do, I work in surgery. When there's a C-section, a D&C hernia, anything like that. That's what I do. I have to go and get it ready for the doctors. And the doctors, come in and I do that for them. But I had one doctor, he was from Africa. He was very rude, very rude. He would throw things, he just didn't like me. And I told him that he was prejudiced. And somebody went back and told him, so he called me in the room, closed the door, and I thought, oh my God, I probably won't get out of here. So he told me that someone had told him something that I said about him. And I says, well, let's hear, what did they say? And he told me, I said, yes, I did say it. I said, because you're so rude to me. I said, you will take my instruments, and he'd throw them across the room and all this kind of stuff. And he told me that the reason he was over here, people in Africa didn't like him because he tried to stick up for them. And he came here. And I said, well, I don't call that trying to stick up for me, throwing things. And he said, okay. And he said he was having a party at his house and he invited me. I thought to myself, never will I go to your house for a party. And then there was another one, Dr., what is his name? He's still there. He was very rude to me. I was doing a case with him one day, and he was so rude to me, calling me names and all this stuff. I just walked out. I said, let somebody else do your case. So one of the white girls came and did it.
As you married your husband, you had children in Reno. Mm-hmm. What has your life been like?
My life was, once I got married, my life was much better, much better. Because before I married him, I was living in a room. Well, he was in the military, plus he was older than me and he was married before and he had children. He was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, his wife. So we got married and he bought a house through military. And we had a place of our own, and that was much, much better.
You could shop. Were you interested in civil rights? Did you take part in any of the demonstrations in the early 50s or 60s?
No, I did not. No, I did not.
You were on the fringe.
Yeah.
I know there was a story about your house, in building or purchasing a house.
Oh yeah. Well, we wanted a bigger house, because we had, the kids. And we went all over Reno. We went all over Sparks. Nobody would sell us a house. No one. And the one.
And this is in what year?
This was in 76, I think. 76 or 77, because we had our house built in 77. Was it 77?
It was 73.
73, okay. So anyway, we go through the model homes and look, nobody would be there. So this one, we was coming back, my husband was nosy. So he was looking in the bathrooms, all this stuff. The guy was hid in the bathroom because he didn't want to talk to us. So my husband said to him, he said, oh, you're here. And he told him, he said, we're interested in buying a home. And he said, he would love to sell us one, but he couldn't because they was from Vegas and they had sold these homes to Black people in Vegas and they wouldn't pay for them. So, okay, we left there. We went to another place and my husband told the guy what we wanted. And the guy says, well, the only way I can sell you a home, one of these homes, is you would have to go and get a vasectomy. Yes, that's what he said. So then we left there and we found another one. We went in there and the guy told him, he says, well, I couldn't afford what. Now you're a cook. He said, and I'm a salesman. He says, I can't afford it. So why do you think you can afford it? So then we just kind of let it go for a while. And one night my husband went out And he said he was drinking, and some guy came up and started talking to him, and he was telling him that, he was looking to buy a house and nobody would sell to him. And he says, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I don't have any homes to sell." He said, "But I have land. I can sell you some land and build you a house." And my husband didn't believe it, so he made an appointment. He came home. He was so happy, so he told me. And I was off on Friday. I never will forget. We went over to the office. I walked in there. This lady was asking me what kind of carpeting did I want, what color appliances. I just started to cry because I could not believe that they was going to build us a house. So I told her all this stuff. And then we would go over there. They'd start working on it. And we'd go over there and the people said, "Oh, he's not going to build your house. He is not going to build your house." And guess what? The people that was on that street wasn't very many. Everybody moved out. So when we got our house and moved in, we was on that street all alone. And I told my husband, I said, "This is really nice. I can scream and holler as loud as I want to, and nobody to call the cops." Everybody moved out. Then the lady behind us tried to sue us because when they was building the house, they tore up her strawberry patch. They ran a truck over her strawberry patch. It was terrible.
What is your address? Where was
1520 Lorena Street, right off of Greenbrae. And at the time when we had that house built, Greenbrae was nothing but sagebrush.
So there was house discrimination.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
In the 70s.
Yes. And my brother had a hard time getting a house too.
Did you ever think of Black Springs, which was a Black development?
Yeah, we went out there, but that's where my in-laws was out there. And I really didn't want to go to Black Springs. My husband built a house out there. Well, his dad had some land, and my husband, when him and his wife in Indiana divorced, he came home to Black Springs, and he built a little house on his dad's property. So his dad gave that to him. But no, I never lived there. But that's where most of the Blacks were, and on Sutro Street. There was a lot of, because now when my dad moved from Hurlong to Reno, he built a house on Sutro.
Jeannie, I know your church is important, growing up as well as now. How do you view your church in your life?
Well, I dearly love my church. I would go I wouldn't miss a Sunday until COVID came in. And when COVID came in, I didn't go. And right now, my church only have service twice a month, the first Sunday and the third Sunday. And that's it. So I'm not involved in my church like I used to be. But before COVID, I didn't miss a Sunday.
Jeannie, you've been working for 65 years, which is way past retirement. Obviously, you see something in your continued work for Washoe Med or Renown. How do you view your years now and importance to your life?
I've been working at Renown for 66 years, and I like it for the simple reason it's like when I go there, they're my family. Since I live alone, I'm a widow.
How do you explain that a little bit? Do you have friends and that you go to various functions with, or are these your work friends?
These are my work friends.
These are your work friends.
Yes.
And do you see yourself ever ending your employment? How does Renown celebrate you working all of these years?
Well, now years ago they was very nice. They gave me trips to Hawaii and all of that kind of stuff. But now they don't do it. They of course, they give us a luncheon or they give us a Starbucks card or something like that. But no, I don't. I'm kind of a loner. I don't drink, so I don't go to functions. I will go to maybe the celebration once a year, and that's it.
You've had a long life in the workforce. How would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered for the good things that I have done, for my children and renown.
And are you close to your children?
Yes, I am.
They live. Do they all live in this area?
No, my son lives in Houston, Texas. My baby girl is gone. She left before her dad. And Deborah, we call her Debbie, she was in Las Vegas, but she just moved here to be with me, be close to me. She's not with me.
So how have you seen your life change in your many years?
Well, let me see how have my life changed. Well, when my husband was alive, we was always going places. Since he has been gone, I really don't do anything but sit home. She argued with me all the way over here because I sit home and don't do this and don't do that. She wants me to get out, go for a walk, take the cruises. If you have money, you can't take it with you and all this kind of stuff she was saying. I just listened to her.
What major changes have you seen in your life?
Well, let's see, the major changes. There really hasn't been that many changes.
Certainly in discrimination there have been
yeah,
changes.
and discrimination,
Civil
yes.
rights.
Yes. Yeah. Well, at least now, like the girls that I work with, now I am the only Black one on the floor right now. We got a couple of travelers. When I tell you last, couple of travelers, but they are from some other state and they are Black. But I am the only Black, and my co-workers invite me to their houses, and all this kind of stuff. And all of the doctors love me. They love me.
I can see why. So looking at yourself as 8 or 10-year-old in Mississippi, could you ever have visualized your life as you now live it?
No, I could not.
Did you ever visualize your life of getting out of the South?
Well, yes, I did. I visualized it, but I didn't have any money, so I didn't know if my dad hadn't came back, and got me, I couldn't have, because I didn't have no money on the money that I was making. And I had to, well, I didn't know about back then, if you made something, okay, the lady, when I was in Mississippi, I was paying her $5. Then when my mom and my brother came and picked me up, I had to give her some. So I didn't have anything.
You mentioned that you didn't have, your mom made your clothes. And
Oh yes. Our clothes, our underwear, and everything was made out of flour sacks. And by us, my dad being a farmer, he bought fertilizer, and they came in cloth sacks. That's what our dresses was made of.
So when did you buy your first dress?
I bought my first dress just before I left Mississippi to come to Hurlong. And I went in and put it on layaway. I put 25 cents down and paid it out that way. When I came to Reno, Hurlong, I had 3 fertilizer sack dresses and one that I bought and 2 pairs of shoes.
Do you remember what you paid for that first dress?
Probably $10, maybe.
Well, you've come a long way.
I have, and got a long ways to go.
You've worked for Renown. You've worked for Washoe Medical Center and Renown, which is the same hospital, but obviously under two different entities. Did you see a difference between the Washoe Medical Center working and Renown working atmosphere and working conditions?
Yes, I did see a difference for the simple reason Washoe Med. Now, when when I was there 10 years, they gave me a gift certificate. When I was there 20 years, they gave me a trip to Hawaii. And every year they would give me something different where I could go places. So when it came to Renown, they don't give you anything. Maybe a Starbucks, coffee or something like that.
How did they celebrate your many years of service?
They always had what do I want to say? What are those we go to?
No celebrations.
Yeah.
No sense.
What?
Celebrations.
Celebrations at the Mapes or
No, not Mapes.
what was
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
And how do they celebrate your length of service? Do they acknowledge you as the oldest employee?
Yes, they did, and they would give me a certificate. I'd have to march up to the stadium and get a certificate, and they would call my name and tell how many years I had been there.
How do you think people view you and your service? And what is it like when you walk into the hospital and people find out who you are?
Well, they say I'm very amazing, and they can't believe that I have been there that long.
How do your coworkers feel about working with you?
They say they love working with me.
And the doctors you're good at if I were a doctor and I had to describe you, how do you think they would describe you?
Well, now, one doctor came to me just a couple of days ago and told me that I was very amazing, and he liked me doing his cases. And he was going to have a case, and he wanted me to do it, but we were training someone. And I said to him, well, I don't know if she would like that for me to do it when she is training. She needs the training. I know how to do it. He says, well, yeah, that's why I want you to do my case.
I hear that there is a picture of you in labor and delivery. That must be an honor. Are there other pictures in that room?
No, there is not.
Why not?
That I couldn't tell you.
Is it probably because you are loved?
I think that's it. Because they had a little, it was a surprise to me. I was busy doing my job, and the nurse came down and wanted me to show her where something was. And I thought I was showing her something. She gets me and takes me up here. And here's all of these people, and I could not believe it. And I thought, oh, they're having some kind of meeting. I can't go through that. And she says, come on. I just started to cry. My daughter was there. Her husband was there. It was all kind of people there. And they had this picture, and they showed it. And what else did they have? Cake and ice cream and some wine and all of this stuff. So I did not take the wine. I don't know what they did with it, but the rest I took it home. And when I started, I graduated from high school at 17. And when I went to work at Renown, I was 18.
And you are now?
You don't want to know. 87 years old.
So that's a goodly amount of service to an institution that appreciates you greatly.
Yeah, 87.
Thank you so much for the time that you have given us.
Thank you.